All right, wonderful. Welcome, everybody. I see many joining us for our admitted student uh, uh, event. This is specifically our second current student panel here at Columbia Climate School. Again, we want to just say big congratulations to our admitted students joining us. We're going to be getting started in about 2 minutes. We're just going to allow some additional students to join the Zoom call. Um, while we're waiting for additional attendees, we always like to, make sure that number one, selfishly, I like to make sure that the audio is working. But number two, it's always fun to see just what a global audience of students we do attract to our sessions. So if you could, please feel free in the Q&A box to type in your program with which you were admitted to, and then the country, city, state with which you are joining us from. So again, in the Q&A box, feel free to type in the program with which you were admitted to and the country, city, state that you're joining us from. We love to see that. Don't be shy. Awesome. Climate Finance, Leela again from Toronto. So glad you're joining us, Leela. Cheering from Bhutan. So glad you can make it. Hamsini, Climate Finance again from Bangalore, India. Guys, Ananya and Hanrui, you guys are going to be in high demand today. Maggie, Climate and Society in Hong Kong. Amazing. Another Climate and Society in DC. Arthita, Climate Finance from Calcutta. Andreas, Climate Finance in London. Welcome, welcome. Muthoni from Kenya. Excellent. From MS Climate. We love to see it. Joyce Faith, also from Kenya. We've had great Kenya representation this year. Just throwing it at Ali. This is great, right? Yeah. So great representation. Um, Climate and Society again, Miriam, Toronto. Miriam actually was able to fly out for the admitted student day, so I'm so glad you're joining us again. Bangar, Climate Finance in New Delhi. And then Vagisha is Climate Finance in India. I love it. Just CF. Just CF. You guys get the gist. So, all right, excellent. Well, we're going to go ahead and formally get started. I'm going to have some broad questions for the panel, and then we're going to switch over. And I really do want you to ask as many questions as you like of our current students. Let's first and foremost make sure that our students kind of anchor everybody by introducing themselves. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, if I could ask you each to kind of introduce yourselves, sharing kind of your education background, any kind of professional experiences, if relevant, prior to joining the climate school, and kind of what led to your interest in the climate space. If we could begin with Emily, I'd love to hear your story.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily, and I got my bachelor's at the University of Toronto in Bachelor's of Commerce, where I focused in finance and strategy. And yeah, I came straight from undergrad in the MS in Climate and GSAP dual. And honestly, it was only in my fourth year of undergrad where I really got interested in sustainability, specifically through a sustainable finance course where I actually learned for the first time like the Sustainable Development Goals and COP and stuff like that. And I was like, wow, this is so important. And I really want to be a part of it. And I did come across the climate finance program, but I thought that because it would align too similarly to my undergrad, so I wanted to challenge myself by doing something pretty different than what I'm used to. So that's how I decided to apply to the MS in climate.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. And Ali, how about you? Kind of your background and your interest in the climate space.
Yeah, so my name is Ali, and I have a BA in global development. It's basically like how to understand the world and how it functions in a social, environmental, political sense. Like, why is it we know what we know and how we know what we know? And it kind of in my third year, we had an internship where I had worked with Aga Khan Foundation in Kenya. And it kind of like honed in on like now why all those nexuses of like why the world is the way it is and like how it affects the environment. And you know how we live in like a capitalist world and it's like very resource revenue generated and very resource extractive of like the world we live in. So it started with like mangroves and like climate resilience with the 11 country profiles and just like really opened my eyes to be like, wow, this is a really pressing issue. And it was like compounded by the fact that in my grandmother's homeland, the lake that we had always had kind of like dried up and it became like a very personal. Now it's not something that's like on the news, it's something that's like in my family's backyard. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. And next, Ananya, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your background.
For sure. So I'm from Singapore and I did my bachelor's in philosophy, politics, and economics. And throughout my undergrad, I really did not have a climate focus at all. I was more focused on development. And because of that interest, I started working in the Singapore government. So I worked in the Singapore Ministry of Finance and I was basically managing Singapore's contributions to the Asian Development Bank and the World Bank. And a lot of the funds that we were seeing pop up in these institutions became, aligned with green projects and how do we get infrastructure resilient projects to be financed. I think that really brought up this issue of, how difficult it is to attract private capital to flow into projects that really do need to be financed in countries like Laos or Timor-Leste even. And I think I started really thinking intellectually about these issues. At the same time, I kind of started looking at Professor Lisa Sacks's work and her LinkedIn and her thoughts, and I got just very intrigued by that. And then I realized that this program would be launching, and I was just, yeah, I thought that that would be very interesting for me.
That's awesome. Yeah, if anybody doesn't follow, definitely follow Lisa Sacks's LinkedIn. It's very active and of course very relevant to climate finance and a variety of climate issues actually. Next up is Jasmine. Jasmine, could you share again a little bit more background on yourself and your interest in the climate space?
Sure. Hi everyone. My name is Jasmine. My interest in climate and environment actually started quite early when I was in high school, and when I had an opportunity to work on a research project in Russia on permafrost. But then I realized I'm kind of interested more in ideas, powers, and global governance. So that's why I did my undergrad in international relations from University of St. Andrews. But I never let go of my interest in climate throughout the journey. So I was interning with UNEP and also several environmental NGOs. And after that, I got my Master of Science at London School of Economics, where I was trained as a social policy researcher. But then I realized I'm so interested in climate, but I haven't got any formal training or any like technical skills in the climate area. So that's why I was trying to find a program that sits at the intersection of climate and policy, and that's what led me to the MA in Climate Society.
Excellent. And then last but certainly not least, Hanrui, if you can share a little bit more about your background and interest in the climate space.
Hi everyone, my name is Henry. I'm currently enrolled in Columbia's climate finance. My interest in the climate finance actually started during my undergrad when I studied in finance. I took a course on the global supply chain that introduced me to some of the basic concepts like the ESG and sustainability supply chain that really sparked my initial interest. And the project also required us to write a sustainable change plan for the company. So this is what actually brought me to this field. And this passion actually grew more when I having my exchange in UC Berkeley. So where I took an incredible course that's called the Business Model for Sustainability that's taught by Professor Andrew, who has a background of NASA scientist, and he's a geology expert. Excellent professor. I really love the course. He has a deep knowledge for climate change society and some of the current tools we have and how business can drive the real transformation. This really opened my eyes for the tremendous opportunities for the space of climate finance. And he also criticized some of the existing business model for sustainability. For example, that the Apple is using uh, second party certification instead of third party. So when it's the time to choose my graduate program, I know I have to combine my finance background with climate solution. So that's exactly what leads to my choice for Columbia's master in climate finance. Yeah, your
Un
microphone
yeah,
is.
thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. What I'd like to do now is let me just stop sharing my screen. That way we can all go a little bit larger. There we go. Is ask specifically about your experiences so far academically. And actually, what I do want to encourage, I noticed Damaris Diaz, my colleague who's helping with Q&A, is encouraging everybody in the chat, hey, feel free to ask questions. By all means, guys, I'm going to just have a couple more questions here. This is your time to ask really unfiltered questions to our current students about their experiences thus far. So feel free to start typing questions in. We might move to open Q&A even sooner. So what I'd love to ask a little bit more is about kind of your cross-registration journeys, if you will. Now, climate finance, I want to just anchor everybody, is a little bit more curated or prescriptive in that you're only taking courses, and they're approved courses through Columbia Climate School and Columbia Business School, of course. But still very dynamic courses, and there's a great deal of flexibility, especially in the climate school. So maybe to kick things off in terms of um, electives specifically, what electives have you enjoyed the most thus far? And if we can maybe, I know Henry just spoke. Henry, do you want to share with us? Although you mentioned and one of our courses, but do you have a maybe a Columbia Business School elective that you're really enjoying?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of Columbia business courses are excellent. Climate policy, and some of the other courses really nice. But I kind of enjoy by the course that is the impact investing and investing in social venture. I think all the climate finance students can have this course in the first semester. So these two courses provide analytic framework and opportunity for both financial. So for the environment related projects. So currently there are many environment related projects that require financing, and these two courses providing us opportunity for analyzing whether these environment projects are suitable for it. Um, I think the impact investing course also provides us access for the Tamer fund that's related to social investing. So um, it provides us with a hands-on experience for determining whether to investing in a project or not. So I think I enjoy these two courses very much. And on this semester, I also took the real estate finance and the asset management courses. Real estate finance was particularly engaging, so we built pro forma models while incorporating option pricing concept in it for determining the price of the real estate finance. Really fun courses. I think it's a good compensation for anyone that's interested in the careers about alternative investment. It was challenging, but also incredibly rewarding, I would say. Overall, CBS electives are great, I would say. Yeah.
Excellent. And then, so sorry, because I'm on a climate finance theme, Ananya, could we hear a little bit more about your experiences? And
Sure, yeah.
are you working with Tamer right now, or am I mistaken?
No, I'm
Oh,
not.
okay,
So I'm
okay,
working at CCSI, the Columbia
that's right.
Center for Sustainable Investment.
I would love to hear that too. Just piggybacking off
Of
that. Yeah,
Sure. Yeah, I guess Hanrui covered this, but the elective that I've really most enjoyed so far is real estate finance. I'm very interested
really.
in the energy sector, and I think it's very exciting what's happening in real estate, especially everything happening around data centers. There's so much like capital that's flowing into these assets, and the energy demands are just, swelling day by day, and it's very much reshaping conversations around power procurement and grid interconnections. And I think it's given me this whole other angle on infrastructure financing that I wouldn't have gotten from a purely climate focused class, which I think is also the beauty of being able to cross register at CBS for the climate finance folks that are tuning in. Um, I think so. To go back to your question on CCSI, so I've been working with Professor Lisa Sachs and her team on a project in ASEAN that was, I think, also close to what I was doing back in my job in the Singapore government. So we were working on creating, or at least I'm working on creating a financing and investment mobilization roadmap for a power grid that is like like a cross-border power grid in ASEAN, basically. And it's been really exciting getting to sit in on meetings that CCSI has with ASEAN bodies and really getting into the work of like crafting the policy papers that need to be done in order for certain agreements to be made at ASEAN. So that's been really exciting, and I've really enjoyed that so far. And I'm happy to answer any more specific questions about that,
That's
if anyone has any.
yeah, that's amazing. Is it an internship or a research assistantship? What's the official? I'm just curious, the
It's
capacity.
it's a research assistantship.
Awesome.
I've been doing it since the first semester that I joined.
That's great. That's great. I remember Lisa in October went to an ASEAN conference, if I recall correctly. Am
That's
I
right.
right? Was
That's
it in
right.
Singapore? It might have been.
Um,
Or no?
I'm
Not
not
sure.
sure.
Yeah, but I know she was out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And then so now pivoting to our MA Climate Society. So there's a great deal of flexibility with that 1 year degree program, and especially the elective journey, and cross registration is quite flexible when it comes to, and I should also say with the MS in climate as well, with the electives. I would love to hear maybe Jasmine, how did you approach your elective journey? Just anchoring all the attendees on the call. The only stipulation for MA Climate Society is that one of the electives has to be taken at Columbia Climate School. So there's a great deal of flexibility around the courses you could take. And again, what's incredible is you're anchored in Columbia University, a preeminent research institution, some phenomenal graduate professional schools. So Jasmine, kind of how have you approached your elective journey, and maybe which have you enjoyed the most? Was it a cross registration? Love to hear it.
Sure. So actually one of my favorite things about this program is the flexibility because we are actually able to design our own pathway across different disciplines. So I've taken classes with SPS in their sustainability management program and sustainability science program, and also cross-register with SIPA, School of International and Public Affairs. But actually the course stood out the most for me is the climate school elective called Social Impact, taught by Professor Caroline Flammer. And I think what makes it really powerful is that it's not a lecture-based, like traditional lecture-based class, but very interactive and intellectually demanding because we're not just learning ESG framework, we are interrogating them instead. So we were constantly challenged by the questions like why should a for-profit company care about sustainability at all, and who actually holds power in shaping corporate behaviors like market regulators or the society. And I really enjoy those conversations because they force you to move beyond theory and think like a decision maker. So yeah, that's my favorite elective so far.
That's excellent. And then Emily, MS Climate, love to hear it. And again, Emily, just so everybody knows, Emily's doing the dual program, and which means that she's spending her first year with the MS in Climate program, but her second year she will be with the Masters of Arts in Architecture and Urban Design with the Graduate School of Architecture, Planning and Preservation. So in the 2 year period, in the same time that students would traditionally get an MS degree with the advanced certificate as the second credential, Emily's going to graduate with two distinct degrees. So Emily, I'd love to hear though how have you been approaching kind of your journey at the climate school thus far, especially around electives?
Yes, I think the biggest challenge was actually just choosing which classes to take because I wanted to take basically every class, and it was very hard narrowing it down. But one of the benefits that most of the professors allow is auditing. So basically, just letting you sit in, you're not officially registered. But most of the time, with some exceptions probably, but most of the time, like when you email the professor, like individually and ask, can I just sit in the class? They'll most likely let you and even add you to like the Canvas and access all the material. So that's what I've been doing with class at GSAP called Climate Adaptation in Cities, which is basically one of my favorite classes right now. And the good thing about this is you can still get connected to the professor and through that get connected to their network as well. So I definitely recommend auditing if you feel like committing to another class is not in your capacity, or you just want to learn more about something that's outside your comfort zone. But I also am really liking disaster research methods with Professor Jonathan Surrey. It's a very small and tight-knit group of people, and we really go rigorously into like the research process for and also that looking into the like the ethical considerations behind disaster research. And that's been really insightful because it complements my interest in disaster management.
That's awesome. And then last but not least, Ali, how's your journey been thus far with the electives, and remind me again of the advanced certificate you're pursuing.
Yeah, I decided on the analytics one. Climate systems and analytics. I think that's the technical, yeah, complete term. So my process has been really interesting, similar to Emily. Like it just there's so many cool courses, so it was so difficult to like select them. But that thing of auditing really like helped me figure out. It's also like really nice because you can technically put everything in your like like your calendar prior to a certain day before you actually get charged for them. You have to like drop them. So you could technically put like 20 credits um into your calendar and like go to each class and check and stay up until like the last day for cross registration. And like you just have to make sure to really like check your time so you fix your schedule so you don't get charged extra for the extra courses. But there was this one class that I had done cross registration with, which is with the Sustainable Development School. It was the official name is Building Climate Justice Co-Creative Coastal Resilience Planning. And that was a really cool opportunity. It was like a cross course taught by like the Data Science Department and Sustainable Development. And they gave us an opportunity to fly drones. And I thought that was really cool because it was like that nexus. I think like the whole climate school built itself on that interdisciplinary aspect. So that was a good class that I saw that building like on that premise. And we had also worked with two local organizations, Bronx Unite and Staten Island Urban Center. So kind of like putting that coastal context that I had done in like more rural land-based communities and now applying it to like a more of an urban setting, which I thought was really like cool. Then the one that another one I'm doing this semester is extreme weather events and climate change trends with Susanna. I think that was really interesting because it fits really well. It's a part of the selectives for the climate system analytics certificate. And it's a cool class because it's seminar-ish based. So you're doing like literature review for kind of like all of these really technical papers. So like the ones that would like the IPCC would report like hydrological studies and like all of these modeling and um atmospheric modeling kind of papers. But like the way that we talk about it makes it feel a lot less intimidating. And like we kind of like every week it's a different extreme weather event. So I think that it's really cool mix between like what I think many of the guys will do the dynamics class in the beginning of the semester and like another class that's mitigation, like a mix of both in like a digestible manner. So I think that's yeah for me what's been good.
That's excellent. And then my next question is kind of around professional goals post program. So kind of what your plans ultimately are. Majority of you are in 1 year degree programs, so obviously things are like quickly come to the fore. And actually, if your goals might have evolved since starting the program, I would love to hear it. Meaning, if all of a sudden you thought I would be in one direction, and all of a sudden, actually, I'm like inspired by blended finance, and now I want to work in a specific policy role. Maybe if we could go to Ananya, I'd love to hear kind of what is your ultimate goal post climate finance, and has there been any evolution, or has it like kind of reaffirmed?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I think I came into this program kind of wanting to pivot into the private sector, having accumulated some government experience. And I've been specifically drawn to energy and infrastructure financing. I'm very drawn to the deal side, the actual work of structuring capital to get clean energy projects built. I think when I started the program, my thinking was a bit broader, so I knew that I wanted to be at the intersection of finance and climate, but I wasn't exactly sure where. Energy infrastructure and the project financing modeling that we've been doing in our coursework at Columbia Business School, and also, classes like another elective that I was taking was the financing energy infrastructure elective at CBS. I think it's all kind of narrowed my focus towards this very specific thing of how do you actually get these projects financed and built? So it's gone from, I want to work in climate finance to I want to be in this room structuring these deals. And my public sector background has given me like kind of the policy and institutional lens. And this program has then filled in the technical piece. So now I'm looking to, bring those together on the transaction side of things once I start working.
Awesome. Excellent. And then Hanrui, sorry, I just it's a natural fit, the next climate finance
Mhm.
question. Any kind of ultimate goals, and have you seen an evolution in those goals since joining the program?
Yeah, definitely. So probably before joining the project, I'm planning to work as probably an asset role in a company. But now maybe I'm considering to try to work on sustainable investing and project financing goal in solar, like wind geothermal or these projects, or how to making it profitable. So I thought about one thought about our project, I think, or some issues about our area is the funding issue. So I was thinking probably I want to came up with some more realistic business model that can bring the project from what we call now a cost center in most of the companies into a profitable center by designing business model. And for my personal career, it would be ideal if I can work in like probably strategic side in business field for managing. Yeah, that's probably my current goal. And but if that's not working, because my undergraduate major is in finance, I would also consider the roles in finance. I actually currently got the audit offer in KPMG in Hong Kong. So yeah, so let's see what
Congratulations.
happens. Yeah.
That's excellent. 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 I'm so happy to hear that. Would this be, out of curiosity, forgive me now, I'm just, would this be an internship over this, or no,
Oh
forgive
no,
me,
it's
this would be
it's
a
a
full,
full time.
this is a
It's a
full
full time.
offer in the
It's a
fall.
full time. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent, Henry. Well, congratulations. I love to hear that. Um, Now, next would be Emily. I'd love to hear Emily's journey, kind of your thoughts on kind of ultimate goals, and if you've had an evolution, love to hear it.
Yeah, it definitely had an evolution because coming in, I was only in the MS in climate, but then because of the core courses, specifically climate adaptation and also climate justice, I learned more about the built environment and issues like urban resilience. And I discovered really an interest in coastal community adaptation. And even living in New York, like we hear a lot, so much about like flooding and sea level rise. And also specifically through dynamics, learning about like what actually causes these things and that all cumulatively led to me realizing that I want to work in the intersection of these things because of also how it ties in with justice and how in the urban context, there's just so many disparities. Because of the whether the background that you come from, like you're just automatically going to be at disadvantage. So looking into that, I think moving forward through GSAP, I would love to eventually end up in urban planning and help creating cities that are more resilient and equitable.
That's excellent. Excellent. And Ali, how about kind of your ultimate goals and if have been any evolutions?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a good question. Um,
You know,
I
for our
think
for our 2 year students, it's important to know they're only in their first year, so there's always room for evolution. But anyways, no, continue. We're
yeah.
tuned.
During climate week, like the first semester, I literally like I sometimes do vlogs. I did a vlog and I was like, guys, I might want to become a lawyer or a sedimentologist. And it just like the exposure to so much content can make your world so yeah, like I think one of my other mentors that says like a black hole of opportunities. Like there's just so much. So like right now, what I can say, um, is like the disaster management space has been an interesting space. I'm interning with NCDP, the National Center for Disaster Preparedness, and we've been looking at like AI enhancing forecasting models in East Africa, but also just data what's it called? Scarce areas. And I think that's an area that I'm very interested in working in because I mean, East Africa is very prone to like climate variability. So it's just generally difficult to have good forecasting metrics there because of like how the large climate modes impact the weather systems there. But also we just don't have enough historical data to help us inform like a well-informed forecast. So sometimes we rely on outside data sources in like Europe or the US. So like just being in that space where you can be able to kind of like build the own like metrics that are sourced from the country, or sourced with like local metrics. That's like me saying it in many words, but like, yeah, being in a space where there's like data scarce, difficult to forecast things, and we're the ones who are most likely more affected, disproportionately affected than the rest of the world where those centers are placed. Um, yeah.
No, that's coming up all the time now, the data centers. I mean, I have so many one-on-one appointments with students that really are now focusing on energy specifically for the data centers. So, very fascinating. And then Jasmine, I'd love to hear. Yeah, last but certainly, Jasmine works with us in admission, so we know Jasmine very well, but I'd love to hear it, Jasmine.
Sure. So my my professional goal before joining Columbia was work in social impact sector, and it hasn't changed so much because I'm still interested in working in NGOs, international organizations. But definitely, I have found like specific areas that I'm interested in through the program. So, I'm trying to work with organizations that design and implement climate programs, especially for in the global south, and also in like climate justice area in general, because I was doing the Applied Climate Project in energy justice for low-income communities here. And also I'm working with United Nations Capital Development Fund for like least developed countries. So I'm interested in the idea of climate justice and want to bring the skills of policy and also climate into development sector that allows like building climate solutions, but also make sure they're equitable and socially grounded.
That's excellent. Excellent, excellent. So I want to actually one final question and then we'll open to Q&A. Although we hold on, no, some questions came in. Okay, no, I'm happy. Okay, let's see if we can tackle them. So question for Nanya, for those who want to work with CCSI or the Tamer Institute, should they express their interest? Oh, this is always interesting. Should they express their interest before starting classes this fall or wait to be on campus? And also, who should we contact? Thanks. It's always, if I could just before the audience, it is tricky. It's uh, oftentimes these opportunities do not happen before you join the program. They happen after you've joined the program. So I want to hear Ananya's timeline, but I can tell you this is that traditionally students actually secure these opportunities even in their second semester. It's very typical. We have a one of our MS in climate students, Diraj, for example, is with the CJEP, the Center for Energy Policy. So you know, it's very typical. He didn't join that until the second semester, so it's very typical. But I'd love to hear, Ananya, how did the CCSI opportunity come about? And if you don't mind sharing kind of the timeline,
For
we'd love
sure.
to hear it.
Yeah. I think that Alfred is right. A lot of my peers in the climate finance program were starting at CCSI either mid-semester in their first semesters or even in the second semester. For me, it was a little bit different. As I mentioned, I did get into looking at Professor Lisa Sachs's work, even as early as March this time last year. And I did reach out to her, and I jumped on a call with her through that cold email and. I got to talk about this ASEAN project that CCSI was working on and how my work in government kind of aligned very closely with it. Um, so I think that we did have a little bit of a rapport and kind of like an agreement that I might join the program and I might get to work with her. So that was very different from the rest of my peers. And I think that at the time, the ASEAN project also was looking for help. And I guess I was just lucky in that I was able to connect with her at the right time. But I wouldn't recommend it. I think the center is can be very busy, and a lot of the researchers are also kind of only looking for help on an ad hoc basis. I would say I think if you're joining the program, you should definitely wait until you're on campus. Try to reach out to your professors in just I'm interested in this. Can I understand more about it? Are you looking for help? I think that would be a little bit more productive than reaching out at this stage because they might not even be able to foresee how much help they would need on a project come August or September. So I would recommend waiting and speaking to professors or researchers in person if that's feasible.
That's an excellent recommendation. Excellent recommendation. Another question, and it might be a little early, so forgive me, but if you guys don't mind sharing kind of what your summer goals are for capstones. This is, and just to anchor everybody, this is an early, for Emily and Allie, and this is not necessarily, Allie's, for example, is not going to do her capstone until next year, right, Allie? So next spring. So this is really a question for Jasmin, Hanrui, and Ananya. The kind of what is your have you decided on a capstone or an internship yet? I know that there's many different variables that's going out there, so you might be like, well, I'm going to do a capstone, but I'm still in the process of a possible internship coming to be. Do you have, could you share with us a little bit more, even about the capstone selection process, if you don't mind? Um, I know we're right now at the precipice. I don't think you guys have selected them quite yet, right? But you've been shared the capstones. Does anybody want to share kind of or come off mic and share their experiences thus far? Forgive me, I'm being very broad, but Jasmine, do you want to talk about like kind of the what the process looks like thus far?
Sure. So like what Alfred was saying, we're still in the selection process. So, we were given a list of different capstones. They're absolutely amazing. Ranges from like public sectors, private sectors, and also like nonprofit organizations. So, we're now in the process of the companies coming into campus and do their pitches. So I think this week there will be a few companies come in. One about like AI startup. I'm kind of interested in that. They will be talking about their project, answering questions for students. So yeah, and then we have a very long window to choose top five projects that we're interested in. And by selecting the top five projects and answer like specific questions and also like uploading it resume, I think the academic affairs will center team will assign trying to like meet everybody's preference and everybody's needs. So, and at the end, it will be like a project around 10 students, if I'm not wrong.
That's great. I did copy and paste, forgive me, the historical capstones. I know many of the admitted students, I'm certain, are very familiar with that web page, but if you did want to see historical clients with which we've worked with, by all means, and you'll see the actual students presenting the projects, it's really helpful, just to kind of give an understanding of the types of work that you perform in capstones. Forgive me to put you also on the spot, Hanrui and Ananya. Are you right now weighing both options? Are you in the process of weighing both? If for capstone or internship, yeah, forgive me.
So I have the I think I have the offer for internship from a Columbia professor. So it's about more about working on a project that is a public company in China. So we're gonna providing some of strategic plan for it to for have the carbon reduction. I was kind of still waiting on it because I'm not really sure because capstone is also great and this project is also quite valuable. So I probably gonna I think we have some of the meeting like tomorrow, right, for capstone. So I will look into it and see if like which one I'd like to choose.
Excellent. Yeah, it's this is like just the if you guys gave me like 2 weeks, our panel would have a lot more to share, unfortunately. But yeah, they're right now in the process. So thank you for that. So for so Julian asks for climate finance students, are they only allowed to take electives at the climate school and Columbia Business School? And the answer, excellent question. The answer is yes. And so actually, we do have a curriculum document really for because it's such a specific curriculum. There is a curriculum document that Julian, you can make sure to share with you in the chat box that you can see. But yes, the answer is you can only take courses at Columbia Business School and Columbia Climate School. I don't think that limits you being a climate finance student. I still think there's like a wealth of courses that are extremely dynamic and highly relevant to the subject. And you know what was interesting is Ananya highlighted real estate finance as an elective course that she really enjoyed, which is fabulous. That actually was not on the original list. I don't know if you remember this, Ananya, like last spring, that was not an approved elective a year ago. When we were having these conversations a year ago, that wasn't on the list. That was a course that was subsequently added. And I think so. What I want to emphasize, Julian, is that these the programs are always evolving. You know what's beautiful about the climate school? You probably heard me say this. I've been here since March of 2022. That first year, we offered three electives. The entire school offered three electives that year, and it's only continued to grow. And speaking directly on the topic of climate finance, that program, it's you're speaking to candidates in the inaugural cohort. Their offerings even grew while they join the program. So Julian, the listing of elective courses that we'll share with you, or the listing of curriculum, there's always a possibility of additional courses being added to that list as well.
And
And yeah, yes, please.
yeah,
Yes.
just to add to that, I think Emily briefly touched on this earlier, but if you are interested in a course that's not offered by the Climate School or CBS, there is always the option of auditing. I mean, you could definitely write to any professor that you are interested in working with or learning from, and they are more than willing most of the time to let you sit into their classes. I know a few of my climate finance peers did that. So they took some courses, or they didn't take it, but they sat in on those courses at SEPA. And I mean, they still got a lot out of that process, even if the credit obviously doesn't count. But if you are really interested in something, then that's also an option. I just wanted to add.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. The next question from Sophie is it's the capstone themes actually, or the selection process is very similar for across the degree program, Sophie. So really any of our students could answer this, but for the MA Climate Society, do you get to pick your capstone project client or is it assigned? You get to pick and actually forgive me because you're going through this process, Jasmine, do you mind sharing with us like the current I believe you pick your top three. Am I correct in saying that? And then you get assigned? Or have you gotten to that stage yet?
So we got to pick top five.
Top five. Great.
Yes.
Great. And so we can't guarantee you your number one choice, but you'll certainly get a project that is mission aligned with what you are interested in. Um, Another question for climate finance. Oh, this would have been great if Peter was here, but yeah, does and Hanrui and Ananya, do you know anything, or do you have you guys worked with the Columbia Climate Fund? Forgive me. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm currently in the Climate Fund.
Oh, are you really? I
Yeah.
didn't realize. Okay,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, we're in a good place. All right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the Columbia Climate Fund, just to sum it up, it's a student-run investment fund that is focused on climate and sustainability. I am personally on the investments team on the energy, so the electrifications and energy systems vertical, which means that what we do is we basically try to source deals, run diligence on companies, and like build out investment memos. Eventually, we want to get to a place where we're making recommendations to our investment committee. So this past 2 semesters, I've been looking at companies across clean energy and decarbonization. So things like carbon removal technology or renewable energy financing platforms, even that kind of thing. What's been really cool about it is that, you're not just doing case studies in a classroom, you're actually making real investment decisions with people around you who are, have a lot of experience or very different experiences from you so they can add different kind of perspectives to your decision making. You have to be able to like defend your thesis, stress test certain assumptions that you're making, and also figure out if a company's like addressable market is actually defensible or if they're just telling you a nice story. It's probably been like one of the things that I've learned from most in my time at Columbia for figuring out how I want to think about my next steps, whether I'm interested in VC as a potential path for myself. So I think that's been really great, and I definitely recommend looking more into it if you're interested in that type of thing once you're at Columbia.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. Another question that came in, this is a great question actually, and I pivot to anybody who would like to come off mic and answer it. I think most of the current panel has direct experience in climate sustainability development. Would any of you have advice for someone coming into the course from a completely different background? So a pivot. We certainly have a lot of students that pivot. Would you specifically have advice relating to gaining experience in the field by securing internships or job offers?
I feel like I can speak to that.
Absolutely.
I was really uncertain because I do have a BA background and going into a MS degree, but like the amount of support that you get at Columbia for like anything, like even thinking about like the very technical like dynamics class, there was so many TAs that had so many office hours and they were like so willing, and even your other peers, and the amount of time that you have to like complete assignments, they just make it very easy for you to get help if you need it. Um so on that front, you should not be concerned. I think they're very encouraging of even like outside of academics. Like I know that the health department they have like trainings on like what your student health insurance covers and like how they can support you throughout the semester, which is, I think, really important for people who are, number one, maybe coming to a different weather system or just like acclimatizing to like a whole new program. It's really important. So yeah, I think there's so much support. And even the thing that was said about like auditing classes, that some of the classes also really complement each other very well. Like carbon and climate was an elective and dynamics. I know that some people who had taken it, they just like speak so well to each other, and there's a lot of things that feed into each other. I feel like let me know if that answered the question. Yeah.
I feel it did. I feel it did. Another question that came in, this is a little bit more technical, so I can take a crack at it too, but guys, correct me in climate finance. Alejandra said, for the MS in climate finance students, I'm not familiar with the amount of credits of the electives. Could you please let me know how many electives from the Columbia Climate School and the Columbia Business School we are expected to take during the spring and summer semester? So very broadly, I can share that it's a 39 credit hour program. 15 of your credits are elective credits. At least six of the credits have to be taken at Columbia Climate School, and at least six of the credits have to be taken at Columbia Business School, with the final three credits being a wild card. You could do it either at Columbia Business School or Columbia Climate School. Um, Interestingly, you could take up to 18 credit hours and remain as a flat tuition rate. I think what's a good that's a great question, Alejandro. What I'd love to ask Ananya and Hanrui is how are you guys approaching? I know the spring semester can you talk about your credit loads? The fall semester was very climate school heavy. The spring semester was very, you guys correct me, but Columbia Business School heavy. How has the journey been thus far? And then the balance of electives. I know that's broad, but I'd love to hear kind of the cadence of the courses.
I can start.
Yeah.
So I did 18 credits in both semesters so far. So it's been a little intense because that's the maximum workload that you can take. As Alfred said, the first semester was very climate school heavy. I did two electives that were climate school electives. And I mean, I think that those tend to be a little bit more accessible, especially based on my background in policy and having done also BA, like Ali said, I think is a little more accessible for me. The climate school classes, they're also very discussion based, very presentation heavy. So that was interesting and really fun. I think the business school classes. So in the first semester, you still will take two business school classes, which are your core classes, unless you test out. But I didn't. So the two electives are valuations and corporate finance. And they're supposed to basically set the groundwork and foundation for you to carry on in your business school courses in the subsequent semesters to, be able to do the modeling work that you would be required to do. And so that this semester, like Alfred said again, it's more business school heavy and very much modeling focused. I think this semester has definitely been a little more challenging for me personally, because I didn't have a lot of finance experience. I think Henry maybe had a different experience so far, but it definitely has been a bit more challenging for me, in a great way. I think, like I mentioned, I'm really enjoying the classes that I'm taking. It's been a lot of fun so far. Yeah, I guess that's just like my very broad take on the question. I'm happy to answer any more specific questions.
Yeah, I like to add a little on that. So in the first both semester, I took a lot of climate courses, as Anna said. So in this semester, I want to take more CBS courses. So when I'm choosing CBS courses, there's a list that we are kind of selecting from. So I choose real estate and asset management. And I also passed the exemption courses in the first semester. So I'm able to choose impact investing, social venture. So I think if you have a finance related background, you should pass it. You should have better pass the exemption courses and you because you have a border selection when you enter the project. Yeah.
That's a great. I mean, you're bringing up a great point. Both Ananya hinting at the exemption exams and Henry sharing that you actually passed. I want to just anchor everybody, just letting you know that it's okay if you don't decide to take them. Meaning you don't have to take the exemption exams if you feel like you need that. If you feel like, hey, no, this foundation knowledge is important to me. If you do already have a finance background, though, as Henry shared, you can go ahead and take them. They are administered by Columbia Business School over the summer. And again, it doesn't mean that you're shortening your timeline in the climate finance program or taking fewer credits. It affords you the flexibility of taking additional electives in essence, and sooner. as noted. Another question is, so this is great. One of the question is around the advanced certificates. So yay, MS Climate back on point. Will the advanced certificate courses require additional cost or registration fees apart from the tuition and fee mentioned on the MS in Climate program? Well, for once, I do have good news. Is that the MS in Climate program's advanced certificates are included in the tuition and fees associated with the 50 credit hour MS in Climate. So it's a 50, excellent question. It's a 50 credit hour program. Within those 50 credits is a second credential, and it's an advanced certificate. Allie's advanced certificate was climate systems analytics. Emily was seriously considering climate systems and disaster management, and then the final one's food systems. All three of those are embedded within the MS in climate, and it does not cost you additional money to pursue those advanced certificates. In fact, you're required if you're doing the standalone 2-year MS in climate. And then if I'm enrolled in the MS in climate program, will I be allowed to take courses offered by Columbia Business School? Very good question. The answer to that is yes, but there has to be a little bit more nuance to it. So, is cross registration at Columbia Business School feasible while being a climate school student and not being a climate finance student specifically? The answer is yes, it is feasible. Have there historically been, for example, MA Climate Society students that have cross registered in Columbia Business School for electives? Yes. Is it guaranteed? No. Is it highly competitive to get to cross register at Columbia Business School? Yes. But again, has there been a history of students being able to cross register in courses that allow cross registration? Yes, there has been. Um, but for example, you couldn't look at the curriculum grid for climate finance and say, but I want to take this specific corporate finance course that all the climate finance students are taking. That course is a specific course dedicated to the climate finance student population. So I want to be very transparent there, but excellent question. And next question is for the Climate Finance Fund, is there a selection process for the business school electives, or what are the chances you get into the electives you choose? Okay, so that's a good question. A little, a little for the MS in Climate Finance, not Climate Finance Fund. So forgive me. Ananya and Hanrui, do you want to talk about the Columbia Business School elective selection? Meaning, I want to say that you can look at that document and it lists the electives. It doesn't mean that you're guaranteed all the electives on there. Although I will say you have a strong chance of getting into your desired electives, but we can't guarantee them. Does anybody want to talk about Columbia Business School has a very unique, I believe there's like an algorithm, right? When you're making selections that's very different from Columbia Climate School selections. How does it work? Does anybody want to summarize that? Ananya, could you take that on? Forgive me.
Sure, yeah. I think it's like Alfred said, it's very different. So CBS runs this thing called Course Match. The timeline for registration is also different from the way that the climate school does it. As I think is with every single graduate school at Columbia, they have different timelines for registration. But with CBS, you have to go through Course Match, where you basically rank the electives that you would take. And the algorithm kind of does its thing, and then you're matched with several courses. I will say I think there is some room to like appeal in case you really want an elective and you didn't get it. But I think the algorithm's pretty solid. So I came into this semester wanting to do, a few courses, and the only like I only didn't get one that I really wanted, but that's okay because also the different electives kind of are complementary in that you can still get a lot out of it, even if you don't get exactly the elective that you wanted. For instance, I mentioned the financing energy infrastructure class that I really wanted. They have a similar class in subterm B, which is the second half of the semester, called project finance, but it's literally the same class, but from like an emerging markets perspective. So I guess it's good that I still got all the tools that I needed, just maybe not from that perspective, but I think I'm still pretty satisfied with the courses that eventually I got into, so I wouldn't say to worry about it too much. But yeah, that's just a rundown on how it works. It's a ranking system as opposed to just registering and seeing if there's availability for that course.
Excellent. Thank you. Another question that came in that's I like it. I like this question a lot because it's nice and broad, and I think it's relevant for any of the 1-year program students. Given that this is a 1-year program, again, we're climate MA Climate Society and MS in Climate Finance specifically. What kind of experiences or preparations do you wish to have had? Um, ahead of joining the program. So, is there anything that you would recommend? And this could be two very different questions. One thing I will say before the panelists is all the students on the call did have a math boot camp that was administered through Columbia Climate School. It was a completely free resource, and it was administered over the summer online. And it was really it was geared towards preparation for dynamics of climate variability and change, which is a climate core course all of our Columbia Climate School students take. I'm not saying that that's the only resource, though, that you should be in terms of your own preparation. In fact, I think maybe climate finance might have its own unique set of elements you might recommend. Ananya and Hanrui, do you have any recommendations? Especially Ananya, did you have any recommendations, like maybe advice you would give to a student before joining this program, especially if they don't have a classical finance background, perhaps?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think something that might have helped me. I think this is not something that we've really covered so far, but I think networking is really important if you're trying to break into finance really without much of a finance background, just like being able to build relationships with people. So, really, when I came to New York, the first few months, I was just reaching out to people on LinkedIn and asking to speak with them, really as just exploratory conversations to see what I would be interested in doing, how my day to day would look like if I were to work in different roles. I think if I started that earlier, that would have really helped as well. So I would recommend coming into this program really having had those conversations already, maybe, so that you are a little bit further along in the process for how to think about next steps. Also, on a related note, I think a lot of deadlines for recruiting are even sometimes before you start the program itself, which I know can be intimidating, but maybe just starting to think about your options and having those timelines in front of you, that would be very helpful for you long term. That's what I would recommend.
That's great. And then climate finance, climate finance is coming in hot in this Q&A, so a lot of questions about it. And I'm not sure if, feel free, but some of the questions are very specific. Maybe, Henry, sorry to put you on the spot on this one, but this might be a little bit more relevant for investment management roles. Would you recommend additional certificates like the CFA or Wall Street Prep that might be helpful? Did you ever explore
Yes, I
that? Yeah.
actually just passed CFA level one a
Oh,
couple of days ago.
congratulations!
I just get the
This is
result for it.
this is the
It's just
congratulations
fitting.
call.
It's just fitting.
This
Yeah.
is yeah.
So, so I plan to pass. Plan to have the take the exam for level two in August. Both my parents are CFA candidates. Oh, sorry, CFA charters. So I'm going to pass it as well. But I will argue that CFA is more about portfolio management, which is more about secondary markets. So if you're and most of the climate project these days are more about primary markets. So if you're considering to work on the primary market, I don't think like it's that fitting. But of course, it's more from my perspective, so it could be different. But if you're considering about portfolio management, that could be quite helpful if you have zero knowledge in finance. But I also have to remind you that CFA is a course that took a long time. If you have zero knowledge about finance, you probably need half a year to complete level one. So for me, I only prepare for like 1 or 2 months because I have relative experience in that field. So yeah, if you plan to take CFA, it's going to be a long journey, and it take 3 levels. It will take at least 2 years to complete. It take a lot of time, so it really and really going to be a challenging and also expensive journey. So you need
Yes.
to think twice before whether you want to start this journey. It's not like CPA or FRM. So yeah,
That's
it's going to
excellent.
be helpful. I'll say it's going to be helpful, especially in
Yes.
portfolio management. But yeah, if it's primary market, it's not that helpful.
That's excellent advice. Thank you for that. And honest advice. I love you guys. You're being very honest and transparent. Hector briefly asks, are the exemption exams, forgive me, are the exemption exams taken in person or on campus? I can confirm they are online exemption exams administered by Columbia Business School. And again, those would be administered over the summer, and they are optional. They are not required of students to take them. Although, if you do have a strong finance background, you should certainly explore taking them. I think Henry would agree on that in terms of that. Um, Another question is, and this is a great question. You guys come up with good questions. What's one misconception you would say you had about working in climate finance that changed once you were in the program? Do you have it's almost too good a question. Maybe you didn't have a misconception about it. Something I've heard a lot about is like the idea of blended finance. I don't know. Does anybody have any take on that?
I can speak to that. So I did work a little bit in blended finance when I was in government because we would constantly be talking about how do we get private capital to work with, sovereign capital to finance certain projects or finance certain things. I think, but I think in terms of the misconception that I had was that most climate related investments are not profitable. I think that having come into this program and understood kind of the language around climate finance a little bit better, I don't think that that's true. There are a lot of layers to what makes something bankable, for instance, cost of capital. So in an emerging context, debt is harder to access, and that makes climate projects, unprofitable in that very limited sense. But more broadly, if all the incentives were aligned, then climate projects can be made bankable, and that's happening very, very rapidly, especially in the energy space, because that's where everybody's looking to invest now that there is demand for data centers and things like that. But I guess that's something that I didn't really know that much about coming into the program, and that's, been made very clear through the coursework that we've had. Definitely recommend reading Lisa Sacks's work on this. I think she's very passionate, and that's been very, very illuminating for me personally.
That's awesome. Thank you for that. And forgive me, we're coming to time now. One thing I want to just note is Gerald Contiago, who works in our career management office, put together this really phenomenal careers outcome report for 2024 and 2025 for MA Climate Society. But it's very important to note that the MS in Climate and the MS in Climate Finance program are new. You are speaking the majority of the panelist members in those programs. These are the inaugural cohorts, so to speak. So we don't have career outcomes for those programs yet. But what I highly recommend, you're going to be getting an email about this with this report that I just put in the chat box. Definitely check out the career outcomes report. It's very detailed, very, very detailed. And I think it gets to the heart of the question that somebody asked about internships and full time offers. That's historical internships and full time offers. But I'm going to just, before we close, I want to put, Hanrui, sorry to put you on the spot again. Do you mind sharing with us? I know that you have an offer. Can you share with us the details of the KPMG offer by any chance? Or just like the type of role it is? Forgive me.
So I actually not know because like is there's a couple groups in it. I don't know which specific one. It could be the IPO group. I'm not
Okay.
really sure because they don't specify in the offer, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm definitely gonna reassign it after I enter into it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Well, excellent.
I
Well,
plan to apply for the ESG auditing because my last internship is the work at EY is the ESG audited, but they don't want me, so
okay.
I to enter another offer. I choose another offer.
I got you. You say, I always say yet, not yet. They don't want you yet. Okay. Just wait. Just wait. So, I just wanted to say, uh, I think, yeah, is there any, okay, I'll just do one more. And sorry, it's for Ananya. Forgive me. This one says, um, you said you were in the government before. Would you be rejoining after your program or have other plans actually? Because you come from this public background. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, so I do come from a public background. I so far don't have any plans to return to government. I think I am more drawn to the private sector just because I think that they do more transaction heavy stuff. And when I was in government, we'd constantly talk about private capital and how important that was. And I think now I kind of want to work on the private capital side and make sure that it flows to the project. So so far no plans to return to government. I'm mostly just exploring roles in finance, in the private sector.
Awesome. Awesome, awesome. All right, well, that concludes the panel. The conversation doesn't end here. We just want to be respectful of our students' times. Classes are back. Spring break was last week. You guys are back in the mix. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Ali, Emily, Hanrui, Ananya, and Jasmin. Thank you guys all for joining the session, sharing your experiences, and We have additional events coming up. We have for the MS in Climate Finance program, Professor Lisa Sachs is giving a talk with the students on Saturday morning, March 28th. And then our career team, even sooner, is going to be doing a full, and actually, I think Sophie, who sent a message, is going to get a lot out of that. But the career and professional development team is doing an entire session dedicated on career outcomes and resources and capstone protocols and everything. So I'm just going to copy and paste it into the chat. Definitely check out that event for everybody across the programs. So thank you again, everyone, and thank you to our students, and I hope you all have a great start to the week. Take care. Bye bye.